Australia has long been admired for its robust migration programs that have attracted skilled workers, international students, and families from around the world. However, amid escalating concerns over housing affordability, strained public services, and labor market pressures, the government is poised to implement radical reforms in 2025. Critics warn that these sweeping changes could force millions of temporary visa holders, and even some long-term residents, to leave Australia if they cannot meet the stricter criteria for permanent residency. This video provides a comprehensive analysis of the new immigration rules set for 2025, explains the underlying rationale, and examines the potential economic, social, and political implications for Australia. So, here's a list of new immigration rules may force millions to leave Australia in 2025. Before we start, make sure you subscribe to the channel and comment your thought. Here we go. Number 1. A new era in Australian migration policy. For many years, Australia's migration system was characterized by generous pathways to both temporary and permanent residency. The post-pandemic era, coupled with economic recovery strategies, had led to record numbers of migrants entering Australia. However, soaring housing prices, increased pressure on public services, and widespread public discontent have now shifted political priorities. Changing priorities in a time of crisis. Australia's population growth, driven by both permanent and temporary migration, has been hailed for boosting economic dynamism and filling critical skills shortages. Yet these benefits have come at a cost. Housing affordability. With soaring property prices and limited new housing, many Australians are feeling the squeeze. Public services under pressure. The rapid increase in population has put immense pressure on healthcare, education, and transport services. Labor market concerns. While migrants have filled essential roles, some sectors now face challenges of overdependence on temporary workers, leaving gaps in long-term workforce planning. Political and social divisions. Migration has become one of the most contentious issues, with voters demanding that the government get migration under control. Number 2. Reduction in permanent migration targets. One of the cornerstone changes announced for 2025 is a dramatic reduction in the number of permanent residency places available under Australia's migration program. For years, the annual cap has hovered around 190,000 to 195,000 permanent migrants. The new strategy, however, aims to reduce these numbers significantly. What's changing? Under revised policy, permanent migration quota. The government now plans to reduce the annual permanent migration intake to a level closer to 150,000 to 160,000 places by mid-2025. This represents a sharp cut from recent figures that have reached as high as 190,000, rebalancing the migration mix. The emphasis is shifting from a rapid influx of migrants toward a more balanced and sustainable model that prioritizes integration and long-term economic contribution. Pathways to ILR. Tighter requirements will be placed on temporary visa holders, such as international students, skilled workers, and temporary graduates, seeking to convert to indefinite leave to remain ILR. Rationale and expected outcomes. The government justifies these cuts by citing mounting domestic pressure. With housing costs reaching record highs and public services under strain, many voters believe that Australia is experiencing over-migration. By reducing the number of new permanent residents, the government hopes to ease pressure on housing. Fewer new permanent residents should help slow the rapid rise in house prices and rental costs. Improve service delivery. Lower numbers will allow health, education, and transport services to better meet the needs of the population. Enhance integration. With fewer newcomers, the system can focus on deeper integration of those who remain, potentially reducing social tensions. Number 3. Tightening temporary visa pathways. Alongside permanent migration cuts, Australia is overhauling its temporary visa regimes. Temporary visas have long provided an essential lifeline for international students, skilled workers, and temporary graduates. Yet, the new rules signal a decisive tightening of these pathways. Impact on international students. International students have been one of Australia's largest groups of temporary migrants. Recent policy changes have already caps on enrollments. New caps will limit the number of international students to 270,000 per year, a sharp reduction from the record high numbers seen in recent years. Higher visa fees and financial requirements. Increased fees from 710 Australian dollars to as high as 1,600 Australian dollars in some cases, along with stricter financial capacity requirements, will make it more expensive for students to study in Australia. Stricter English proficiency standards. Revised English language requirements mean that students must now achieve higher scores in exams, such as IELTS, for example, increasing from 5.5 to 6.0 for student visas and 6.0 to 6.5 for temporary graduate visas. These measures are designed to reduce the overall number of temporary student migrants, but critics warn that they may force many who have already invested time and money in Australian education into a legal limbo if they cannot secure a permanent visa afterward. Temporary graduates and skilled workers. For temporary graduates and skilled workers, the pathway to permanent residency is also being narrowed. Reduced pathways to ILR. Under the new migration strategy, temporary visa holders, including those on the 485 graduate visa and the temporary skilled visas, face stricter criteria for conversion to ILR if they fail to meet the revised requirements, whether due to reduced work experience thresholds or tougher English language criteria. They may have no choice but to depart. Digital transition risks. The transition to a fully digital visa system, e-visa, may introduce technical glitches. As seen in previous experiences, for example, concerns over the digital Windrush crisis in the UK, if migrants lose access to digital proof of their status, they risk being deemed overstayers and subsequently removed from Australia. Shorter grace periods. New rules are likely to reduce the window for finding new sponsors if a temporary worker loses their job. While the current system allows up to 180 days for a visa holder to secure new sponsorship, the government's focus on reducing temporary migrant numbers could see this period shortened, leaving many with no alternative but to depart. Number 4. Digital transformation. The e-visa revolution. One of the most ambitious components of Australia's new migration strategy is the complete transition to a digital visa system. The traditional paper-based biometric residence permits, BRPs, are being replaced by e-visas, fully digital authorizations that are linked to an individual's online account with the Department of Home Affairs. Key features of the new e-visa system. Fully digital processing. Applicants will apply online, receive decisions electronically, and manage their visa status through a centralized digital platform. Instantaneous updates. The e-visa system is designed to provide real-time updates on visa status, reducing processing times and streamlining border checks. No physical documentation. Once an e-visa is granted, individuals will no longer carry a physical visa sticker or card. Instead, their status will be verified electronically at the border. Integration with compliance measures. The digital system is intended to improve monitoring and compliance, ensuring that visa holders meet their obligations. Risks and concerns. While the digital transition promises greater efficiency, it is not without risks. Technical glitches. As with any digital system, there is a risk of system errors. If the e-visa platform experiences technical failures, migrants could be unable to access proof of their visa status, potentially leading to involuntary departures. Digital divide. Vulnerable populations, including older migrants and those with limited digital literacy, may struggle to navigate the new system. Without proper support, these individuals could be left in a state of digital limbo. Data accuracy. Ensuring the accuracy of data across multiple government databases is a colossal challenge. Inaccurate or outdated information could result in visa cancellations or denials, even for those who have met all other criteria. Privacy and security concerns. The shift to a fully digital system raises questions about data security and privacy. Migrants may be at risk if their personal information is not adequately protected. Number 5. Enhance enforcement and deportation measures. In addition to tightening visa eligibility, the new migration rules introduce a more aggressive enforcement regime aimed at reducing unauthorized stay. This includes more robust measures to identify, detain, and deport individuals who fail to comply with visa conditions. Stricter deportation policies. Recent court rulings and ministerial directives have already signaled a tougher stance on illegal migrants. Key changes include shorter pathways to deportation. Temporary visa holders who breach conditions, whether by working without authorization or failing to convert to permanent status, will face expedited removal processes. Expanded powers for detention. New legislation grants border security officials broader powers to detain individuals who are deemed non-compliant. This includes the possibility of using digital monitoring and biometric data to track visa holders. Third country removal options. Australia is exploring arrangements with third countries to facilitate the deportation of non-citizens who are unable or unwilling to meet the new criteria. Critics argue that this could lead to family separations and human rights abuses, especially if the receiving country does not offer adequate protections. Impact on vulnerable groups. The enhanced enforcement measures are likely to have a disproportionate impact on those who are already vulnerable. Asylum seekers and refugees. Those who enter Australia through irregular channels and later secure asylum may find themselves at risk if their good character assessments are reevaluated under the new stringent criteria. Temporary graduates and students. Migrants who have studied and worked in Australia on temporary visas may be caught in a no-win situation if they cannot transition to permanent residency. With fewer pathways available, many could face deportation once their visas expire. Long-term residents on temporary visas. Individuals who have lived in Australia for years without achieving permanent status may suddenly find that they no longer qualify, forcing them to leave despite having established lives and contributing to the economy. Number 6. Economic and social ramifications. The new immigration rules are not just about numbers. They will have profound economic and social implications that could reshape Australia's future. Economic consequences. Labor market shortages. While reducing immigration may ease pressure on public services in the short term, it could also lead to labor shortages in key sectors such as healthcare, construction, and technology. Australia's aging population depends on a steady influx of skilled migrants to sustain growth, reduce innovation and productivity. Migrants have historically been a vital source of innovation and entrepreneurial spirit. Tighter immigration policies could stifle this creativity, potentially slowing economic progress. Fiscal impact. Migrants contribute significantly to Australia's tax revenue. A decline in the migrant population could reduce the overall tax base, impacting funding for public services and infrastructure. Sectoral shifts. With student and temporary graduate pathways tightened, the international education sector, a major export industry worth billions of dollars, may contract, leading to job losses and reduced economic activity in regional areas. Social and cultural impacts. Community disruption. For millions of temporary visa holders and long-term residents, Australia is home. Forcing them to leave could fracture established communities and lead to significant social dislocation. Integration challenges. A reduction in migration levels might ease integration pressures for some communities, but it could also reduce the multicultural vibrancy that has long been a hallmark of Australian society. Political polarization. Immigration remains one of the most divisive issues in Australian politics. The new rules are likely to intensify debates between those who argue for a controlled, sustainable migration system and those who warn of humanitarian and economic drawbacks. Human rights concerns. As enforcement measures tighten, there is a risk that vulnerable individuals, such as refugees, asylum seekers, and those who enter through irregular means, will be treated harshly. Critics warn that the policies could undermine Australia's international reputation as a compassionate and fair society. Number 7. Political and public debate. The new immigration rules have already ignited fierce political debate across Australia. With the next federal election looming, migration policy has emerged as a key battleground. Government's justification. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and his ministers argue that the reforms are designed to control over-migration. By reducing both permanent and temporary migration numbers, the government aims to address public concerns over housing affordability, public service strain, and social cohesion. Enhance integration. A lower number of new migrants means that those who do arrive can be better integrated into Australian society. Protect national interests. Tighter enforcement and higher thresholds ensure that only those who contribute to the economy and abide by the rules can remain, safeguarding the nation's long-term prosperity. Opposition criticisms. Opposition parties, as well as migrant rights groups and industry associations, have sharply criticized the new rules. Harsh and punitive. Critics contend that the reforms are overly punitive, effectively penalizing millions of individuals who have already made Australia their home. Risk of forced departures. By drastically reducing pathways to permanent residency, the new system could force temporary visa holders, many of whom have been living, working, and paying taxes in Australia for years, to leave. Digital system vulnerabilities. The reliance on the new e-visa system raises concerns about technical glitches that could lead to wrongful cancellations and deportations. Economic damage. Labor market analysts warn that a significant reduction in migrant numbers could exacerbate skills shortages, lower productivity, and diminish Australia's competitive edge globally. Number 8. Stakeholder reactions. The response to the proposed reforms has been varied, reflecting the diverse interests and concerns of different stakeholders. Migrant rights advocates. Human rights organizations and refugee advocates have expressed deep concern over the potential human cost. Fear of mass deportations. Groups warn that the tightened rules could lead to the forced departure of millions of temporary migrants who have already integrated into Australian society. Digital vulnerability. Critics of the e-visa system argue that any technical failure could leave thousands stranded without proof of legal status. Call for compassion. Advocates emphasize the need for a balanced approach that protects the rights of vulnerable migrants, including those who fled persecution or conflict. Educational institutions. Universities and vocational training providers, which have benefited enormously from international student fees, are also voicing concerns. Student caps. With proposed reductions in international student numbers to 270,000 per year, many institutions fear significant revenue losses and potential job cuts. This is particularly acute for regional universities that rely on the economic benefits of international enrollments. Graduate visa reforms. Changes to the temporary graduate visa, subclass 485, may leave thousands of graduates in immigration limbo if they are unable to secure a pathway to permanent residency. Economic impact. The contraction of the international education sector, a major export industry worth billions, could have ripple effects on Australia's broader economy. Number 9. Long-term implications and future scenarios. The full impact of Australia's new immigration rules will only become clear in the years ahead. However, several potential scenarios can be envisioned based on current trends and policy directions. Scenario 1. A controlled, sustainable migration system. In an ideal outcome, the new rules achieve their stated goals. Balanced population growth. With lower migration numbers, Australia experiences a more sustainable rate of population growth, easing pressures on housing and public services. Stronger integration. Fewer, but more highly skilled and committed migrants lead to better integration and long-term economic contributions. Economic stability. Although the overall migrant population is reduced, the emphasis on quality and net contribution ensures that the economy continues to benefit from the skills and innovation that migrants bring. Improved public confidence. By addressing public concerns over overcrowding and strained services, the government may restore trust in the migration system and the political establishment. Scenario 2. Widespread forced departures and social disruption. In a less favorable outcome, the tightening of pathways and digital system failures could have severe consequences. Massive deportations. Millions of temporary visa holders, international students, skilled workers, and temporary graduates could be forced to leave if they fail to meet the new criteria. This would not only disrupt individual lives, but also create large-scale social and economic instability. Digital glitches. Persistent technical issues with the e-visa system may lead to wrongful cancellations, leaving many without proof of legal status and triggering involuntary removals. Labor shortages. As temporary migrants exit the country, critical industries could face acute labor shortages, undermining Australia's economic growth and global competitiveness. Public backlash. The human cost of these measures could spark widespread protests and political unrest, potentially leading to legal challenges and calls for policy reversals. Scenario 3. A mixed outcome with unintended consequences. A more likely scenario is a mixed outcome, where some goals are achieved while others lead to unintended negative consequences. Partial success in reducing numbers. While the overall migrant numbers may decline, a significant cohort of long-term temporary migrants could find themselves in legal limbo, with no clear pathway to permanent residency. Increased asylum claims. Faced with the prospect of deportation, many temporary graduates and workers may turn to asylum claims as a last resort, further burdening an already strained asylum system. Economic and social strains. Regional communities might suffer as skilled migrants depart, while the international education sector struggles with reduced enrollments and revenue losses. Policy revisions. Widespread legal challenges and public outcry could force the government to revisit and revise parts of the new rules, leading to a protracted period of uncertainty and policy fluctuation. Number 10. What migrants and employers need to do. In this climate of rapid change, both prospective migrants and sponsoring employers must take proactive steps to navigate the new rules and mitigate risks. Advice for migrants. Stay informed. Regularly check updates from the Department of Home Affairs and trusted migration advisory sources. Changes can occur quickly, and keeping abreast of new requirements is crucial. Update digital records. With the shift to e-visas, ensure that all personal information on your UKVI or Australian equivalent account is up to date. This includes passport details, contact information, and any required supporting documents. Seek legal advice. If you're on a temporary visa and have been living in Australia for several years, consult an experienced migration lawyer to assess your eligibility for permanent residency. Don't wait until your visa is about to expire. Document your residency. Maintain comprehensive records of your employment, education, and community involvement. This documentation can be essential if you need to prove continuous residence or good character under the new rules. Plan for contingencies. Given the uncertainty around digital systems and potential enforcement actions, have a contingency plan. This may include exploring alternative visa options or preparing for the possibility of returning to your home country. Advice for employers. Review sponsorship policies. Ensure that your company's internal policies comply with the new sponsor license requirements. In particular, update contract to ensure that no prohibited fees are passed on to employees. Enhance HR training. Train your HR and legal teams on the new digital visa systems and enforcement measures. A robust understanding of the new rules can help avoid costly errors. Budget for increased costs. Be prepared for higher sponsorship fees and additional administrative costs associated with the new digital processing requirements. Develop talent pipelines. With tighter migration pathways, invest in domestic training and recruitment programs. This will help mitigate the impact of potential labor shortages in critical sectors. Monitor compliance. Establish an internal compliance team to track changes in immigration policy and ensure that all sponsored employees meet the new requirements. Regular audits can help catch issues before they result in visa cancellations or enforcement actions. The conclusion. So, guys, this was a list of new immigration rules may force millions to leave Australia in 2025. Hope you will like it and appreciate it. Australia's new immigration rules for 2025 mark a turning point in the country's migration policy. With permanent migration targets reduced, temporary visa pathways tightened, and a bold shift to digital visa systems, the government aims to create a more sustainable and controlled migration system. However, the potential for unintended consequences is significant. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and press the bell icons for latest upcoming travel videos. Bye-bye. See you.